His body is coming out of my car while I'm driving at 70, 75 miles an hour. Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. This is episode 2 of my Dating Disasters Wednesday series in English with you all. If you missed the first episode, you can go back and check that out. It was about my ex's racist mother. Today we're going to be talking about Carlos. So I met Carlos probably a year after I had ended things with Juan, the guy from the first story. And we actually met on Craigslist. Now, this is one of the disadvantages of growing up sheltered. You don't use any kind of social media. You don't really use a whole lot of those platforms to figure out what it is that you're using and the other nefarious purposes it's been used for. The people that had told me about Craigslist had said that it was a good way to meet other people with different interests. My goal in going onto Craigslist was to find some people that I could be Spanish-speaking buddies with. After my relationship with Juan and having a 24/7 Spanish-speaking relationship, I realized just how much I loved the language. I missed being able to speak it as frequently because at the time I was not an interpreter yet. Carlos was one of the people that responded to my message. We messaged back and forth a little bit via email, and then we got to the point where we felt like it was cool to exchange numbers. We talked on the phone for a little bit. I found out that he was from Colombia, specifically Cali, and he was just this really cool person, it seemed like. After a couple of phone conversations, we decided that, we wanted to actually meet in person and hang out and speak Spanish together. The first hangout we had was at Applebee's, and now, looking back, it wasn't a hangout, it was a date. I was so stupid, I didn't realize that it was a date. I show up, and there's this really attractive man in the place of this person that didn't have a face before. And it's really obvious that he thinks that I'm very attractive. We sit down, we have dinner, we're communicating in Spanish. Nothing really went beyond that though. He was really respectful and treated it as our Spanish buddy meetup. But over the next couple of weeks, he would consistently send me messages asking if we wanted to hang out. It was dates, right? I didn't think about it, but we were always doing something coupley. Eventually, I was like, I kind of like this guy. He's cute, he's nice, he speaks Spanish really well, and I enjoy the fact that he can give me feedback because he's bilingual. He, after a month or two, asked me if we could move from just being Spanish-speaking buddies to actually dating. He never asked me to be his girlfriend. He just said that he wanted to date me. And I was like, that's fine. I think you're cool too, and I would love to continue getting to know you. We spent a lot of time together. We essentially acted like a couple without being an official couple, if that makes any sense. About a month into our dating relationship, I noticed that his behaviors were starting to change. For example, I would be getting in my car, leaving work, heading home, and he would say, okay, but how long is it going to take you to get home? And I'd say 15 minutes. 15 minutes would go by, and this man would on the dot go, okay, it's been 15 minutes. Where are you? I'm in my car. Well, you said that you were going to be home in 15 minutes. Yeah, I did, but there's traffic. So how long is it going to take you to get home now? That level of weird. He always wanted to know what I was doing, always wanted to know when I was going to get home, always wanted to know where I was. To a certain extent, I was just like, okay, he's just asking questions because again, I was sheltered. I grew up in a family where I wasn't really exposed to a whole lot. So I was like, he's just asking a bunch of questions. He's weird about it, but he's asking questions and that's fine because I ask questions. What's the problem? There were even times where when he came over to my apartment or we saw each other, he would hug me and he would just stick his nose in the crook of my neck and sniff me. I asked him what he was doing and he would say, oh, I'm making sure that you don't smell of another man's cologne. And I thought he was joking because I was an idiot. But of course I only smelled like me, so there was never a problem. Around this same time, my best friend was a guy. We would go to the same movies all the time, so we were like, hey, well, why don't we just coordinate and go to the movies together? So that was the basis of our relationship, was we would just go to movies, hang out, and then it became a best friend kind of situation. When Carlos found out about my guy best friend, he was all kinds of upset and jealous, thinking that I was doing things behind his back with my best friend. Let's just call him Roger. If we were going to a movie together, he would need to know what movie it was, what the showing was, the address to the movie theater. When I was getting home, he would call me throughout the movie. He would text me throughout the movie to see if I was still attentive to my phone, I guess, and not distracted by my passions and lusts for Roger. To a point, I was like, okay, well, I'm being really honest and this seems to trigger him, so I'll just not tell him when I'm hanging out with Roger because it's not like we're doing anything anyway. One evening, Carlos and I made plans to go to a Brazilian steakhouse. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. If you've never been there, you should totally give it a try. I'm gonna butcher the name, but it's called Fogo de Chao. Oh, the food is so good. And so we decided that we were going to do a date night there. It was a Saturday, the day that we were going to go, and last minute, Carlos wanted to change the day to Sunday. I told him in that conversation, well, I can't do that. I already have plans with Roger for going to see a movie, like a matinee movie the next day. He was so upset, but didn't ask to change the day. So Saturday it was. Anytime I go to a new location, I like to drive. I'm the person that wants to scope out the area and have my way of coming and going if I need to. I don't like to feel trapped or feel like I'm in a car with somebody who might not be as safe of a driver as I am. So I offered to drive to the restaurant. Carlos came to my apartment and I had dressed up pretty nicely because, I mean, it's a nice restaurant. He comes in and he starts telling me how pretty I look, but every single comment he makes is a backhanded compliment. Something like, oh, you look so pretty. Is this the kind of stuff that you wear when you go places with Roger? We don't go places. We go to the movies and it's dark in there. I do not care if what I'm wearing. I just sweatpants and a sweatshirt. That's it. You know, I wonder how many people you do this for. Is this how you typically dress up when you go out somewhere nice? Who gave you that shirt? Who purchased those pants for you? Who got you those heels? Me, okay? Stop being a little sourpuss. We're gonna go to dinner. We're going to enjoy it because I said so. I've never been to this place. I think it's gonna be cool. Let's enjoy the night. I drive out to this restaurant, and even on the way and while we're waiting to be seated, he continues making these comments about how pretty I look and turning them into something else. He wasn't making me feel guilty, but I was just like, what is your problem? Like, yeah, okay, thank you, stop it, shut your mouth. When we get to sit at our table, things kind of simmered down and went back to normal. He was really agreeable. We were trying each other's food. We were having good conversation. It was a good time. Afterwards, when we got back in my car, I said something to him along the lines of, thank you so much for suggesting this place and essentially making me aware of it because I had a really good time with you tonight. And he was like, oh, don't worry about it. You'll have an even better time with Roger tomorrow. I had been brushing off these comments to a certain extent throughout the night. Everything was reaching a head at that point. I was just like, dude, what is your problem? Seriously, I have never done anything to even remotely make you nervous. I'm not a dishonest person. I've shared everything with you. What else do you want from me? What the French toast is your problem? I'm driving in the process, like I'm getting onto 285, which is a highway in Atlanta, and it's got like 7 lanes of traffic. I am going onto the highway, arguing with this man, and he's going back and forth with me and telling me I'm not being honest with him, that he knows that there's something going on, that I need to just put him out of his misery, and he doesn't want to take this disrespect anymore, yada yada. I just stopped talking to him and started driving. I was literally just zoned out. Then I noticed that he is starting to lean over. So I'm driving and he's in the passenger seat, and he is leaned over and in my ear yelling at me. I had just zoned out and wasn't paying attention to it. He's in my ear, he's leaning over, he's yelling at me. I look at him and he is so angry. For some reason, my response to that was to turn on the radio and flip the volume all the way up to the loudest setting possible. It hurt my ears, but it wasn't as bad as hearing him screaming. After a few seconds of him trying to yell over the music and realizing it wasn't happening, he stops and he sits back down in his seat. I turn the music down. he gets back up. And so I turned the music back up. We did this a couple of times until he finally realized that I was just not interested in hearing what it was that he had to say. He sits back down in his seat and we drove for like maybe 2 minutes in silence. I'm in the middle lane of 285. So there's 3 lanes here, 3 lanes here. Out of nowhere, this man undoes his seatbelt and opens the car door and starts screaming at me in Spanish. You stopped this car and you let me out of this car. I don't want to sit next to you anymore. You're a liar. You're da, 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 da. And he is like hanging out of the car. His body is coming out of my car while I'm driving at 70, 75 miles an hour on one of the busiest highways in Atlanta. Thank God nobody was around me at that point because I swerved and lost total control of that car while I was trying to process what was going on around me. I was yelling at him, Carlos, get back in the car. No, I'm leaving. I'm going to jump out of this car. Carlos, get back in the car right now or I'm calling the police. Okay. Shut the door, put his seatbelt back on. And I said, if you want to get out so bad, wait until we get somewhere where it's safe for me to do so, and I will drop you on the side of the highway and you can walk home. He was just quiet. I found out later that the reason that he had gone so instantly compliant was because he had a warrant out for his arrest at the time. Again, stupid Krista. We drove to the point that I got to an exit. I let him out of the car and drove home. Thankfully, I lived with a male roommate at the time. Sean, if you're watching this, I love you so much. Sean was really aware of the fact that I was upset. I tried to tell him a little bit of what was going on, but I essentially said, I don't want to talk to Carlos. I'm done. And then like maybe half an hour later, I hear a at my door. I look through the peephole and it's Carlos. He's standing on the doorstep. Oh no, you did not. No, you are not here. I'm just very thankful that my roommate was there because I would not have felt safe otherwise. And he knew Carlos and I typically spoke Spanish with each other. That night, I specifically stayed in the living room. And after Carlos came into the apartment, I was yelling at him, but I was yelling at him in English. That was my roommate's signal that something was going on. He came out of his bedroom and he was like, yo, Carlos, you gotta chill. You gotta leave. You can't be up in here talking to her like this. She doesn't get riled up like this, so I know something's going on. You don't need to be around her if this is the way that she's going to feel. You need to chill out. He kept him at the door and I just went to my bedroom. I got undressed. I showered. I got dressed for pajamas and then I went to bed. I could hear that both Sean and Carlos were chatting with each other, but I was just too tired to really do anything or say anything about it. I was emotionally just exhausted and freaked out from the fact that this trifling man had tried to jump out of my car in the middle of a busy highway. I fell asleep and I wake up, I don't know when, and this man is knelt at my bedside and he is profusely apologizing for his behavior, saying, I don't even know what happened, mommy. You have to forgive me. I'm so sorry. I never meant to do such and such. It wasn't my intention to scare you. Da 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 da. I was just like, bro, get out. I'm trying to sleep. Get out of my room. He left and Sean saw him to the door. That was the last time that I saw him in person for 5 years. We live in the same town, so I'm very surprised that we didn't cross paths. He popped up out of nowhere and just swore up and down that things had changed, that he was a different man, that I would see somebody who was more secure, more confident. The forgiving side of me was like, okay, let's see what he's about. And no, he was not any different. He was still equally insecure, if not more so. He is 100% red pill now. Women are the devil except for me. He was just such a nasty person and super insecure. His family is lovely. And what really made me think about this story was I saw his dad in the grocery store a couple of nights ago and I was like, oh, I miss you so much. I think the moral of this story is going to be twofold. Number one, you are not responsible for somebody else's jealousies and insecurities. It is not your fault that somebody is acting out of turn or they're acting all kinds of crazy because they feel a certain way. They're 100% in control or should be in control of their feelings and emotions. Nothing you are and nothing you are doing, unless you're intentionally trying to incite violence and rage, is the reason for what they're doing. It is not acceptable for people to make you the source of their problems and jealousy, rage, insecurity, whatever. Number 2, don't go digging in yesterday's trash for today's meals. If you left somebody in the past previously, it's okay to continue leaving them in the past. You don't need to give them a second sample. You don't need to give them another opportunity or another chance. If you are not keen on the way that things ended the first time around, don't go digging in the trash to try and make something new for today. Okay? Okay. That was the story of the Colombian guy that almost jumped out of my car because he was so hung up on me potentially doing something with my best friend. Next week, Alex and I are putting out a different video for Wednesday to go along with our Sunday video, so we'll have a bit of a jump. It'll still be in English, so please tune in, and then we'll be right back into the stories again. Just remember, as we always say on our channel, that with God, all things are possible, and we will see you next time. Take care.